episode of the Wedding Film School Show is brought to you by MusicBed, the best music licensing platform for wedding filmmakers. Head over to themusicbed.com and enter our code WFS on checkout to get a free month on your annual wedding subscription. Now, on to the show.
Hi guys, how you doing? It's the Youngs. I actually can't imagine ever doing a wedding with my wife.
We get that
A lot.
But our response is, I can't imagine not running it with my spouse. He has always been on the background, helping me with the business side.
Because I was in the corporate TV broadcast world, in that world, it's kind of frowned upon to be a wedding videographer.
Now, given the people who know, they know it's like, oh, I make a lot more money than you actually, so.
I'll just show them my books.
Yeah.
How do you get that kind of trust, especially with planners?
The fact that we are married has kind of helped with that. We're able to collectively harness that relationship with the couple, and we kind of branded ourselves on building that relationship with them.
If you do not have the experience behind the camera in a wedding environment, get experience. So you need to be second shooting. You need to be shadowing. You need to just put yourself in this environment to understand the flow and how weddings work.
Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. I am super excited because I have some awesome guests on the show today, but I did want to remind everyone, if you're listening to the show, go ahead, check out. We actually have a YouTube channel for the Wedding Film School Show, in addition to our traditional OG wedding filmmaking, the Wedding Film School channel. We have a channel for this show, so head over to the Wedding Film School Show over on YouTube and go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to watch this episode, if you're listening to it, I would say turn it off right away. Head over to YouTube and watch it on YouTube, because this couple, they're just beautiful. They're so amazing looking, and you're going to love seeing their smiling faces. So without further ado, hi guys, how you doing? It's the Youngs.
Good.
We're doing
Hi.
great. We are the Youngs.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
I'm Veronica.
Veronica and Alex.
I'm not Veronica.
No.
I'm Alex.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. It's a beautiful day in St. Louis.
70-degree day in spring St. Louis.
Yeah.
Telling you.
Can't.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. We love it.
So you guys are married,
Yes.
and so that's always fun for me, because I actually can't imagine ever doing a wedding with my wife.
We get that
We
a
get
lot.
that a lot. Like
Yeah.
even down to, I can't imagine running a business with my wife. I get that
Yeah.
too.
But our response is, I can't imagine not running
Yeah.
it with my
Yeah.
spouse. Yeah.
But and there's so many people who are doing it successfully, so clearly it's not strange. It's probably actually the more traditional, historical way of actually running a business is with your family. But but when I look at it and I'm like, I just can't imagine it. So when you guys, how long have you guys been doing this for? Why don't we just start with the getting started story, the wedding filmmaker's journey.
The one we've told a million
photographer's
times.
journey. The one
Yeah.
we've told a million times.
Yeah. So I actually started my company as just Veronica Young Photography. Alex had a full-time job that was a video job.
Yeah, I worked in commercial corporate TV video for probably almost a decade before I even jumped into weddings.
Yeah.
And
I started-
It was pretty mundane every day. It's the same thing.
I started my company in 2015.
Officially, 2016. You started
2016?
shooting in 2015.
Yeah. So then, he has always been on the background side of it, helping me with the business side. Because I wasn't business mindset forward when I started it. Like when I started it, I thought having a Facebook page was having a company. Obviously, that's
It
not
isn't,
true.
though.
That's not what that is.
Right? That's not how you do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so he's always been just there kind of behind the scenes helping me. And then he joined on with me in 2017, right?
Unofficially, we would have clients that come to us and say, hey, do you offer video? Because I'd love to book photo and video together.
Yeah.
And while I didn't do weddings, I'm like, well,
Video.
I know video like the back of my hand. That's what I do for a living. So yeah, we'll do. So we did like maybe 2 that year and
Yeah.
a couple the year after.
Yeah.
But yeah, we weren't promoting it
Advertising
at that
yeah.
point.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a soft launch, so to speak.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then life happens and he ended up going full time with me in
In 2018, I lost my production job,
yeah.
and she was freaked initially, and I'm like, we'll figure this out. And then
I was
we-
full time with Veronica in photography
Yeah,
at that
she had
point.
quit her corporate job at that point already that year. We bought a house,
Yeah.
and then I lost my job, and so then I'm like, okay, let's just do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never
if you,
turn
if
back.
you want to have, like, just guarantee a crisis, go get into some kind of debt is required,
Yeah.
and then it will just magically happen. It's just
Right.
Yeah,
Buy a house, quit your job, lose your job.
yeah,
it's honestly, this is cheesy, but it's so true. In that moment in our lives, it was the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And that's
Definitely paid off.
it paid off for sure.
I love hearing that stuff because, I think so many people in the wedding industry, I think they got into the industry somewhat, just some backdoor ways, right? Very few people are like, I think with photography, it's different, right? Like a lot of people are like, I love photography and I'm going to do wedding video. Everyone who got into video was like, I want to do video. I want to be a storyteller. I want to be a filmmaker. And then they're like, well, I have this camera. I got to make money with it. I could try weddings. Like that's so many people's journey. And I love how like you actually learned to love it.
Yeah.
Like you really do.
And he did. He had to learn to love it because I mean, he'll be honest and say that he did not want to do that.
I had zero intention of doing weddings.
And
because-
I had to be like, hey, like actually give it a chance. Like we're impacting people's lives like really big and doing something super epic that they're taking away forever. Like just see how it goes, see how it feels like doing it, and you ended up loving it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it came down, my mindset behind it came down to, because I was in the corporate TV broadcast world for so long, in that world, I'm sure you can attest to this, it's kind of frowned upon to be a wedding videographer.
Are you in Video Village? The
No.
Facebook group Video Village. So that's like one of the OG Facebook groups. If you drop that you're a wedding filmmaker,
It's like scum of the earth.
you are like not a real person to them.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Like they're like, well, okay, but like, so I would never hire you to literally even be a gaffer.
oh
like-
no.
Yeah, I don't want to join that group.
No.
They don't know. Now, given the people who know, they know that's like, oh, I make a lot more money than you actually. So
I'll just show them my books.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I've had this discussion with a lot of people. I come from a production background more so than weddings as well.
Yeah.
As well as Jared, music videos, things like that. And I found that background has been really beneficial for me because I
Absolutely.
understand audio and lighting and even
Yep.
something as simple as cable management, just like production.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how have you found that your commercial experience has really informed how you film weddings?
I mean, oh man, there's so many things. I could do a whole podcast.
The
on
fact that
but
he
the-
even like just referenced the cable things, like you are such a
I'm
a stickler. Yeah.
But that comes from my music production background.
Mhm.
It's the cable thing.
Yeah. He's like taping and like making sure like even the tape is like laid perfectly so people don't trip, but it also looks okay. Like
Well, you would
I
never,
mean-
you would get kicked off sets if you didn't gaff your
Yeah.
cables.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So really, and we actually just talked about this on a
Mhm.
podcast. Understanding lighting is so vital to wedding filmmaking,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's overlooked a lot of times. So when I first started bringing lights to receptions, people looked at me like I was crazy because, well, we don't do that. Well, I do that.
yeah.
Or I'm looking for 4 different sources of audio from all these different places. Well, why do you need so many? Well, I need fail safes, and I need as many fail safes because I'm not controlling most of them. So-
Our job is to make these people look the best that they possibly can. And so we know that dynamic lighting is important to be able to do that. And that's one of the main things that they have you do in corporate work.
And a lot of my corporate work was reality TV based at the end. So it's stuff you can't really, quote unquote, redo. So it was as close to doing a wedding as you can without doing a wedding and it being an actual set based thing. So we'd have everybody wearing a lav, we'd have room mics, we'd have boom mics, we'd have everything set up to try to capture it the best we can, but we had fail safes all over the place and it was lit properly. And just understanding what goes into a big set like that and then understanding how to do each role and knowing in a wedding, I have to do all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Making it fit into a complex wedding day. Yeah.
So just understanding that, I think, is what takes a wedding videographer and kind of elevates them, because they look at it as more of a producer role and not a videographer role.
Yeah, especially when you start to get into higher end weddings. I
Yeah.
think if you're working high end weddings, they're much more likely to really need pre-production, essentially.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure.
I do find production skills really come in handy as you kind of level up. And if you're looking at yourself and you're listening to this and you're looking to get into $8,000 plus gigs just for the filmmaking, you're talking planners, you're talking lots of people at the weddings, you're talking places and locations that maybe have a lighting person coming, but they suck and they're key lighting everything but the person speaking. So you have to add light so you can
Or
match
it's
your
direct
ratio.
I mean,
overhead light.
Yeah, we actually just shot a wedding a couple weeks ago that they had a lighting company come in, and they have these pin lights that are magnetic that like they could just throw up on the top of the ceiling, and
It's supposed to be white.
they're
but
supposed to be
not true
white, but they're not true white. They're blue. And so when we were doing test shots in the room and figuring out lighting for the speaker and things like that, that was the first thing that I noticed. And I was like, this is going to ruin their skin tones. And I'm like, I know that they paid for like these little tiny pin lights to be put up there. I'm like, but we had a planner. I'm like, I need those taken down. And like, I know that. And I explained, I'm like, this is why it's not going to look good. And she was like, absolutely, let's take them down. And so we took them down like right away. And I was like, our lighting will be enough.
Well, and having a planner at that level that understands that what you're doing, they need to be able to make changes, and understands what you bring to the table is huge. And it makes a huge difference in what you're able to produce for the couple and ultimately the planner.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the one of the things that I think is interesting about you guys and just, a handful of people in the industry, but not, I think, as many as you would think. So at the bottom of the market, right? If you're just getting into, if you're a couple booking a wedding, right? One of the first things you're going to see if you go to the Knot or something like that is combo packages from large national chains. And so I think one of the things that you see is there's maybe a little bit of a stigma, right, with offering photo and video. Now, I think there are plenty of people who do it, but I would say not tons of people who are doing it at the high end and at your level. Do you guys kind of how do you guys kind of bridge that gap and create this high-end luxury experience where you're doing both for people? How do you get that kind of trust, especially with planners?
I found, and you probably have a lot to say about this too, I found that the fact that we are married has kind of helped with that, because we're able to collectively harness that relationship with the couple like we would when we first started, and we kind of like branded ourselves on building that relationship with them. But because we're married, serving married couples getting married, we're able to connect with them equally, as opposed to like just the bride or just one party. We've had a lot of grooms just completely break out of their shell
Just because Alex
just because
there.
I was there.
Yeah. And I think that like what we do is we set a very baseline standard for our experience across the board for photo, for video, and not even just like the product that we provide, but also the overall client experience. This sounds kind of negative, but I promise it's not. Because they're hiring us, we have a lot of control over a lot of the day. And that goes hand in hand with us making sure that our clients, their parents, their grandparents, everybody that we're going to be interacting with is going to have the best experience possible working with us. Because even if we did have a crap product, if we gave them an amazing experience, that's what they would take away from it. And that would make them love their product. Now, we don't give a crap product. We give a good product.
It's beautiful. You guys have beautiful work. Now, do you guys find that people are, and this might be competitive, so like,
no, that's
people
okay,
coming to the door and inquiring based on photo or video more, or do they always want both?
I would say actually they almost always want both. I would say 95% of our bookings are photo
up
and
front
video.
though, or after they're educated.
Up
I
front.
mean, at this point, because we've kind of branded it that way,
Mhm.
I'd say yeah.
And it took a while for us to get there, especially with us starting as video or
Photo.
photo only.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about that then, because I think this is really interesting. Let's imagine a photographer's listening to this, and their husband is just bumming around the house, uselessly doing nothing, bringing no bread to the table with their camera.
I know where this is going.
And they say, honey, get your crap together. Help me and make video.
It's a hot topic.
As a photographer, and maybe they're good. Let's imagine that they're good. Let's
Okay.
imagine they're a great
Thanks for
filmmaker.
putting that in there.
Let's imagine that they are good. They're their own little Alex. And and how would you kind of encourage someone to add video to their photo business?
I would say, whether you are good or not, if you do not have the experience behind the camera in a wedding environment, get experience. Get experience, get experience.
Before you add it as part of your brand.
So you need to be second shooting. You need to be shadowing. You need to be taking behind the scenes photos for a photographer. You need to just put yourself in this environment to understand the flow and how weddings work. And it's not just documenting. You have to manage expectations of your clients, of your clients' parents, of emotions, highs and lows of the day, and how to
But what
work
about
through
for
that.
video? What about adding video to a photo business? Because I think like a lot of people do this all the time. Usually it's low end. They'll come to me and they'll say like, "Oh, I want to add video to my photo business." Because I have an editing studio. So a lot of our clients are photographers who want to add video and they can't edit, so they need someone to help them with their editing. How would a photographer add video to their packages? Like, what was that journey like for you guys when you were making the decision, like, hey, we're going to add video?
Well, you educated yourself like a lot.
I mean, I did a lot of I brought a friend of ours in that he worked for a volume video company that's pretty big locally, and he had hundreds of weddings under his belt. So I brought him in to show me kind of the gameplay for a wedding day.
Mhm.
And then I took what he taught me, combined that with all the production knowledge that I had already had, and kind of created a product and a workflow for us that worked.
Yeah. And you got to just start. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. So,
And I think you mentioned if they're good, but I feel like it's important to note that like there's a huge influx of people that are like, hey, I'm in photography. My husband could pick up a camera and learn video, so let's bring him on board. I think the biggest reason that those companies aren't taking off as much is because at the end of the day, you're going to be judged based on your worst product. So if you're a really good photographer, but you're offering video, but it's kind of subpar, you're going to be remembered for your subpar video, not your great photography.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
it's important to be at the same level for both
Yeah.
before you start incorporating it as your brand.
that's why I said this is a hot topic, because
Yeah.
that's a pretty unpopular
We've had
opinion,
this
I would say.
conversation lots of times.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about all the time with our team. We're only as good as we can only charge as much as our worst shooter.
Yeah.
So like whoever that person is, whatever that basement is, that's your price.
Yeah.
You're not.
But I mean, like I said, you have to start somewhere.
So the way we did it, that's probably
go
the
ahead.
best way to answer that question.
Yeah.
Is the way we did it was, we were booking photography. That's what everybody knew. We were still Veronica Young Photography. We would just reach out to clients a couple months before their wedding, maybe earlier, and say, hey, we're now offering video, and it was just to them. And we'd give them an introductory rate.
A little sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
So like, we're not doing anything else that day. We'll do video for you. So we booked. At the first year we did that, we probably booked maybe 9,
Yeah.
and we did like 45 weddings that year. And we just kept progressing. And then as word spread that we also offered video, and that our packages were more geared toward pushing the clients to a combo package, that's what we were getting, was more combo based packages. Up front, we had to kind of like talk the photography only people into booking videography.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
what was
it
that
wasn't
sales
that
process
difficult.
like? Were you primarily doing the sales, Veronica, at that point?
I still
He still
do the
does.
sales. Yeah.
So what was that sales process like where you were like, hey, but also like how did you start, like, maybe you didn't know all the lingo or all the deliverables or all that stuff. How did you just integrate selling an additional service as a photographer?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of it came just through organic conversation, talking to our clients and getting to know them, maybe even just having their timeline meeting, which is coming up like close to their wedding day. So I would say, I just put the bug in their ear, and I'm also asking about other vendors that they've hired. Hey, have you gotten a florist or anything like that? And if I know that they're not mentioning a videographer, I'm like, well, is that something like you're interested in? Because we could do that for you. And
you're sneaky. You married you married a savage.
Oh, trust me.
Okay.
With all the love.
Yeah.
I love it though.
Yeah, I love that. That's so because you've passively introduced something.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to force anything down anybody's throats. So
it's searching for pain points.
Yeah, it's solving their problems that they might not even know that they have. So when I'm talking even about like what's important to them on their wedding day, and if they're like, I mean, I've had ones where like my grandpa's going to be there, and honestly, this might be like the last event that he's ever going to attend. I'm like, you want that on video? Like you want your grandpa on the dance floor, like busting a move. And we can do that for you. Like, let me solve these problems for you.
And actually, I mean, I don't want to be the person that brings this up because
it's okay.
Dad,
no,
but,
it's okay.
We actually have a very personal story as to how we get people to book video, and it's not even sleazy because
it's just the truth.
It's our experience. When we got married, we made lots of mistakes. We didn't hire a super professional photographer. We didn't even have video, even though I worked in professional video. And then a few years later, her dad suddenly died.
Yeah.
So all we have are a couple photos of her dad.
And so it does feel like
kind of like pitch it as, we wish we had video of her dad walking her down the aisle.
It does feel a little like weird, but also I'm just giving a real life experience on why it's so valuable and why they should be adding it. If you're already spending this much, why not just add it on?
Agreed. So as a photographer, and sorry to keep talking to your wife, Alex, but
no, you're fine. She's better than I am anyway.
Well, here's my thing is like, I just think photographers in general are just so much better at sales than filmmakers and so much better at marketing and branding. And
they have to be.
I just wonder why that is. Like, have you had an opportunity, Veronica, to just take a peek into the weird world that is wedding filmmakers?
I mean, other than what Alex does, and what we do together, no, I haven't. So, like, I don't know what it looks like for just a videographer to sell themselves, other than like what I've seen in our industry, and at a very base level.
We've done maybe, 4 total weddings that were video only.
Yeah, I mean, we do offer video only. So I can pitch a video only, but because we do both, it's very much of a similar sales structure to when I'm just pitching either both of us or just photography.
Yeah. Have you found, though, that like, have you guys found as you're kind of adding this, like, what was the process like? Because, I've added a lot of products over the years. Different things, and every time it takes me a little while to kind of make my rounds, have multiple conversations with my partners and the people that I work with. Well, why do I want that? What is that again? What's the difference between this and that?
Oh, yeah, there was
like, did you guys find there was a bit of a learning curve with your partners when you started to add this, and how did you go about educating? Because we talk a lot about educating couples, and that's important. You just hit on that right there, like how to educate someone the value of what you're doing and why they might want to add it. I don't think most people talk enough about educating their vendor partners.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we created an education program last year with one of our things. I brought my average sale up 30%.
Wow.
Just by educating planners what we sell.
I think that that's interesting that you bring that up, because that is something that Alex says all the time. And I agree with you, is that, and I think that it is changing as I say this, but I think that it is starting to change. A lot of planners do not push video, or they make
an afterthought.
It's an afterthought. So they are like, let's prioritize photo over video. If here's your budget, let's put this amount towards photo, and then if we have anything left, we'll add video.
Well,
and it's the if we have anything left part that kind of pigeonholes them into
A standard.
standard of video, as
Yeah.
opposed to if you're doing a high-end wedding, you should be getting high-end video.
Well, but it makes sense for these planners because video is useless in a publication submission.
It used
To be.
Well,
It's not anymore.
I would say, I don't know. Like, I've done a ton. I've been in Brides. I've been in Martha Stewart. I've been in all the magazines. And, like, they'll put it up there, but then it's like hundreds of photos.
Well, see, that's where, okay, so I'm saying it in a sense of it was useless for publications in that sense. However, because, I mean, it's 2023, the world is going video. It's already there. So if
hope
a
that
planner
you're
wants
right.
to, oh, dude, I am right. I am right. I'm confident enough to say that I am right. In general, the best content, or the most, not best content, but the most engaging content that you find on any social media platform is video content. And if a planner wants to stand out from the crowd and get more engagement to ultimately get more clients, they need to use video content.
Well, and this is what I'll tell you guys. Like, when I was telling you I developed this thing, part of the program we developed is planners get same week reels of
Perfect.
Yeah.
for their content.
And we
because that's
do the
what
same
photographers do. We
Yep.
we came up with photographers and riding their coattails, and we were like, what are they doing that we're not doing? And we would notice, like, the photographer would send them some images within 3 or 4 days, and all the high end people, that's like basically a must if you want
Yeah.
to be
And-
And I would say that is one of the things that we started to do was we recognize that it's instant gratification, and especially in a luxury market. The planners that you're working with, you have your clients, but the planners are also more or less your client at that point.
Mhm.
And so you're catering to them and what they need. And when it becomes a thing with video, they're wanting to showcase their work as well and their design. So we make sure that we can send them a few clips or a short reel right away. And then also it's two birds with one stone. The couple loves it as well.
Mhm.
And that's another like big bonus that we have is that after a wedding day, we don't have to just say, hey, we're giving a preview for photos. Hey, we're giving a preview for videos. We can stretch it out to two more days and say, okay, the following day we're going to post some photos previews. And then the day after that, we're going to post some video previews. So we're just keeping that high going.
You're kind of bringing up the cohesion, right, of the brand
Yeah.
as one of the benefits, and kind of like almost selling, hey, this is why it's great. And I've done a fair amount of weddings with my own brand as well, so I have a sense of that. But I don't definitely not as much as you guys. I would say we're 90% other people. Like,
Yeah.
So, but regardless, how do you guys find that in terms of the look and the style of film and photo, are you trying really hard to make them very cohesive, or do you think they can have their own thing going?
I would say that they're pretty cohesive, and that's our goal.
Yeah, we aim to do that just because one of the selling points that we have is a consistent product across the board.
Yeah. So we have, we shoot all the same brand of camera. We both shoot Canon, and that's very meticulously done. So our color science is the same when it comes to color grading films and editing the photos. We also both shoot film. I shoot a Pentax and Alex shoots Super 8.
I shoot a Canon Super 8. Even.
Yeah, Canon Super 8. So we definitely are making sure that everything looks the same. It has the same vibe and feel to it.
And then she actually also, because I used to color correct the films myself, but then because we wanted to just make sure that we matched as perfectly as possible, I feel like nobody really looks at color the same way a photographer does. And if the brand was originally based on the photography side, I want to make sure we match that. So she comes in at the end of the film and actually color corrects it to match the edits that she already did with the photos.
Do you ever find that to be a little challenging as a filmmaker when you realize that they have so much more dynamic range than you do?
Yeah, it's really frustrating.
he'll
Or like she'll do split toning and I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah, he'll take a stab at the color correction. He'll be like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, let me just make a couple tweaks.
I did have to teach her how to color correct, so I still have that up my sleeve.
You had to you had to teach me the technical, in Premiere, this button does this and that, and then I took it and ran.
Did you find? Okay, so this is really interesting. So do you find the limitations in color and video to be like frustrating as a photographer?
They are more challenging for sure. But we have figured out, what what shooting profiles like works for us now. So like in the beginning, when I started to do it, I didn't understand because I don't understand a lot about video. I know enough to like, if I had to second shoot for him, I could do it, but I would never call myself a videographer. But I would say I had to learn like why certain things didn't work. Oh, this isn't shot in log. So like you have to like add an input LUT and like this is shot in, I don't even know, raw.
I'm gonna out myself here, and I'm probably gonna get blasted by all of the videographers in the world. For weddings, for this reason, I don't shoot in log except for one camera.
I think I'm working on a video right now called "Stop Shooting Log," so I'm with you because
you did C log. Is that different than log?
There's 3 different C log.
Okay, see, I don't even know, but
so on my C70s, I use the YDR because it's so much easier for her to match in post, and as long as I'm nailing exposure, it doesn't really matter.
Can I ask you a question? Like, because when I look at your work, I wouldn't call it light and airy. I would probably.
You wouldn't.
No,
that's what everybody else says.
Well, I think I wouldn't call it that because when I think light and airy, I think way more blown out highlights than I'm seeing here. You guys still show buildings in the background.
Yeah,
I would say
I'm glad you're my new favorite person because I would also not call us light and airy, and everybody else does, and I'm like, no.
I would call it's got the editorial kind of luxury look to it.
Bingo.
That's exactly what we're going for.
But it doesn't have the light and airy thing. And I don't think that brand could be cohesive. I don't think light and airy would look good on video.
No.
You can't because I work with a lot of film photographers and and like that's the Jose Villa thing, right? Where it's like blow out the highlights. The roll off is beautiful.
I wouldn't actually even say that Jose Villa.
He's not really
more
light and airy,
editorial
really.
almost.
No.
But it's probably more Katie Mary she's pretty light and
yes.
airy.
Yes,
like
that's
Katie
a good
is
example.
pretty light and airy and like she's blowing those highlights out to the point where there's like halation and everything's just like you can't do that with video. The highlights are just like clip, like there's just a clip and they're off and it looks garbagey. It's not It's not good. So that's why I don't call you light and airy because I'm like, well,
I love that.
The video look it just looks like editorial,
Our whole style in general is like timeless, and so having really, really like moody shadows or really blown out highlights it's not timeless. We want things we want them to feel like they're real.
Now we will do the moody shadows and like motion,
but on purpose. And that's when we bring out the editorial side is when we start to get like super creative with it. So
I would say
are
like a more like you guys are doing like the drag shutter stuff a little bit, kind of like Joel and Justina, but with not quite as like artsy fartsy looking.
Not forcing it.
Yeah.
So I love it and it looks great, but I was like,
it
looks cohesive. It looks like you guys are intentionally trying to create a collection, which is awesome. So one of the things Alex was talking to me about was something that comes up a lot, especially in wedding filmmaking groups. I'm not sure about in photography groups as much anymore, but
it does.
It does.
Yeah.
Is how the knot. This is. I'll lay the scenario out for everyone listening. Person getting into the industry, just trying to book some gigs, right? And they're like, "How do I find anyone?" And people go, "Oh, networking." And I always say to them, like, "Okay, no top planner is going to talk to you. So why do you? How do they network?" They have no portfolio. They need to get gigs, right? So then they go, okay, well, I saw this thing called The Knot. Is that a waste of money? Is that a good idea? Should I do that? And inevitably, they are pounced on by
hundreds
of people who literally say one of two things. Something that's just like a very no information, it's a scam, enter. Or it's a scam. I tried to cancel my contract that I signed up for a certain amount of time, and they won't give it back to me. These very same people, by the way, would not give back a retainer that someone booked on their contract, but they're, of course, very upset that they don't want to keep their commitments. and want their money back. And so those are pretty much one of two things. There's probably like a third option that comes up sometimes, which is something along the lines of, it's pretty good if you want low-end couples.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of like, almost no one says, yeah, it's solid. You can get a lot out of it. Why do you think people have like such a, because I think it's not just the Knot and Wedding Wire. It's just like in general advertising. But let's talk specifically about Knot and Wedding Wire. Why do you think people are just such haters on Knot and Wedding Wire?
Go ahead.
Okay. Excuse me. Ooh, sorry. I think the hate actually has manifested itself more recently. I'd say the last. When did Wedding Wire buy the Knot? Whatever year that was.
3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when it manifested the most because it started making all these changes that people didn't like.
Yeah.
And
It got complicated.
It got complicated, and unfortunately, the fake inquiries did start happening at that point. And I'm not here to say that the Knot is the best thing in the world because it's absolutely not.
I think the point of this is that we both all collectively have a very unpopular opinion.
But it's I think it's, how am I going to put this? I think it's mostly hated because the people that jumped in on it didn't do well on it, and they blame the Knot for it.
It's hated because they expected it to do the work for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you were trying to get to.
That's what I was trying to get
to.
to.
I would agree. I think most people's opinion is actually an opinion on their success and not an opinion on the Knot or Wedding Wire. They're like, well, I spent money and it didn't work. And then when you talk to them, their impressions of like what they did versus my impressions of what they did. And this is why I know me and Alex are similar, because I've seen Alex answering questions in groups the same. And both of us are saying like, what did you do? So
yeah, you need self-reflection.
Yeah, what did you do? Like, what did you expect and what did you do? And so when you know, I was talking to Alex, and you guys, maybe not as much anymore. And like Alex said, and I've acknowledged a lot, like it's not for everyone. It's not for every market. It's not for every couple. It's not the end all be all. And it's probably not forever. If you're running your business, like it might be, you will come to a place where like your clients are not on the Knot as much anymore, but you can get really solid clients. So why don't you talk a little bit about your journey and like you guys using the Knot and like kind of, you know, we could talk bad stuff too, but maybe some of the good things you guys found and how you were able to make it work.
I'll start with the good because I mean, ultimately I attribute the Knot to a lot of our growth. And that, in 2017 was our first, like, I would call it our first full year of weddings.
Were you the youngs at that point, or were you still?
No, we weren't the youngs officially until, ironically, was it 2020? We launched.
No, it was 2019.
No, I think it was 2020 because we did the rebrand, and then COVID happened, right?
It was 2019.
It was 2019. She probably knows better than I do. Anyway.
She's like, I'm not going to debate this with you. Trust me.
Oh yeah, it was after I lost my job. Anyway, I digress. We had some weddings booked in 2016, but our first full year with photography was 2017, and that's the year we ended up jumping on the Knot and setting up a profile and doing all the things that everybody should be doing if they get a Knot profile. And we took our $30,000 in income from 2017 and turned that into $100,000 in 2018. And 95% of those bookings were from the Knot.
You didn't even have to take a master class.
No.
We just did all the things that should be done. So make your thumbnail stand out. Be timely in your responding. Make sure your branding and everything and copy on your website is cohesive. It's easy to navigate. Your contact form is right there. All the information that they need to get the information to book you or to contact you is easily attainable, and they know what they're expecting and they know what they're looking for. And we did all those things, and that shows because we got bookings.
Yeah, I think people rip on national chains a lot, right? Because you know, there's a lot to rip on. But one of the things that national chains all do well is they understand their audience and that they're selling, you know, B2C, business to customer. And the customer is a shopper. They're shopping. They are not on the site to get to know you. They're on the site to make a purchase or figure out if they want to make a purchase. So the amount of people I see in filmmaking, especially photography, it's just so much better, Veronica. Like, you guys are so much more savvy than us, which is why they're able to charge twice as much money for half as much post-production. But also just, I think there's a huge demand, right? Everyone wants photography. And so they just kind of have these skills that filmmakers don't have. And so, these filmmakers are going to these platforms and they're not very sophisticated in their understanding of sales and marketing. And they don't understand how to make things easy for people. Like, if I click on your link, right, and I go to your website and I can't figure out how to learn about you in a sales way, right? Not just in a way where it's like, well, like, is your website good? Although a lot of people there, Alex and Veronica, their website is terrible. Like, so we were talking, Alex, and so about the things people need to do. So I think we should talk a little bit about, okay, the Knot, it works pretty well for us. I wouldn't say it's my number one source. There's a lot of negatives about it. I definitely think there's a cap too. But if you're asking that question in a group, you've not hit that cap. If you're wondering, should I use the Knot? You're not a person that needs to worry about, you can't get high-end clients. I don't even know why people bring that up. It's like, well, you can't get high-end clients. I'm like, this dude's not getting high-end clients anyway.
Yeah.
Right. They don't. About the Knot,
they're getting started. They're just trying to get clients. Like, they don't have networking connections and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I need more bookings,
get on the Knot.
I can't think of a much better thing than doing the Knot. Like, people, when I do consults, guys, the number one thing people want to do in a coaching call is ask me how to make more money. And I'll ask them like 3 questions. I'll say, who are the top planners in your area? Who are the top photographers in your area? What are the top venues in your area? Which they never know the answer to.
Yeah.
Which is why they're not making money.
Which is part of the problem.
And so I say, go learn all that. Go learn all that. Find an organic way to connect with those people. Talk to me in 2 years. Right?
Yep.
But I also tell them all, like, but also you should just go advertise on the Knot.
And that's when, like, we do mentorships and stuff too. And so we deep dive into other people's businesses to help them grow and make more money.
So go head over there, click on the link, go sign up, get a coaching call from the Youngs. All right.
Thanks. And that is one of the things that we offer, depending on where they're at in their business. But more often than not, they're in a place where they could really benefit from being on the Knot. And so we will highly recommend that they get on there. But we don't just say, hey, pay for a storefront on the Knot. We're like, you have got to be intentional. If you're going to be on the Knot, don't waste your time and money if you're not going to be intentional, because you have to, in order to get what you need to get out of it, you have to put time and effort behind your Knot profile.
No such thing as passive income, because you have to have some sort of work upfront to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, for us, that looked like not having a robotic response when people would inquire with us. We would have personal responses. And I would be very honest, and this is just what worked for us, but I would be very honest and say, hey, this is not the best form of communication for me, because it's not. And so I would say, here's our website, fill out our contact form, and let's have a conversation via email or Zoom or phone call.
It's like great minds think alike, Veronica.
Yeah. And because I don't want them to look at what my stuff on the Knot. My website has so much more to offer. And once you're on my website, you're going to love me. So I just got to get you there.
Well, sales is all about getting someone to take additional steps of commitment toward you. Like, if you're selling to someone, you need them to do something that costs them something.
Yeah.
Every step of the way. Like, you can't just let a person dick around on the Knot.
Exactly. And I would know, based off if they took that step to fill out my form, I'm like, there's probably an 85% chance that I'm going to book this client because they took that extra step.
That's only one part of what we try to tell people that they need to do. The other part is you can't set the Knot and forget it. You can't put all your photos or your video and forget about it, because everybody else is constantly changing. Mm-hmm. So I always say, set your profile, pick your thumbnail, do a quick scroll. If your profile doesn't stand out quickly, you need to change your thumbnail, because because that's what clients are doing. That's what potential clients are doing. They're doing a quick scroll and
Yeah.
seeing what catches their eye. If it
Don't
doesn't
put a
catch
picture
your
of
eye-
you.
No.
No.
We actually
Ugh.
did a test once and did a GIF.
Mm-hmm.
We took a bunch of her photos and put a GIF on ours, and
It-
we got a lot
it
of
went very
inquiries
well.
from that.
Yep. I also tell people like that. You brought up one of the biggest things, Veronica, which is get them to your site and get them into your flow. But make them take that step to get out of the Knott's flow and into your workflow. Like I don't count anything as a lead until they fill out my form on my website.
Yep.
Yeah.
Instagram.
And that opens up
same
a
thing.
whole other like source of problems where they're like, well, the knot doesn't work for me. But it's not just the knot. Like, does your website look like shit? Because if it does, it doesn't matter if they found you on the knot or not. Like they're not going to book you if you have a crap website.
Not even if it looks like shit. If it loads slow.
Yeah.
It's not
Easily to
easy
navigate.
to navigate. There's so many things that go into it. The longer they're on your website or in your world, the more likely they're going to book.
Yeah.
The knot's great as long as you know the goal is to get them off the knot. That's what I tell people.
Yes.
The goal is to get them
Yep.
off the knot into your world, away from all your competitors, because they're
Yeah.
looking at
The
all
good-
these other people.
The good thing about the knot is that you get a lot of eyeballs.
Oh yeah.
So that's the benefit of being on the knot is because it can actually change into real customers and not just leads.
Definitely. How, do you find that are you guys doing listings that are photo or video? Which market are you in?
So I will say, ironically enough, we do not pay for advertising with the knot anymore. Like we've mentioned before, or just previously, we have capped out at this point. Our clients are not on the knot. They're probably not even necessarily searching for wedding inspo. They're hiring a planner and getting their inspo from them. So we do have
It was a photo.
but it was a photo profile, yeah, in the past, and
Where
we
do you
do still
think that
have.
price cap was in your market with the knot?
I would say
4.
no. I would say for photography, the cap was probably around 5,100.
I think it was lower.
You think so?
Yeah, based on the metrics as far as like how many what
But
percentage we booked.
that was maybe 2-3 years ago. I would say now it's probably a bit higher.
So what I found on the knot is we would book. That's the most likely place I'm going to book a combo pack.
Yeah.
And we would sell those our average sale on the knot was like 6,200, but it was for photo and video. It was like a short highlight film and like 8 hours of coverage, something like that. I think once like the stuff that I'm traditionally selling, just video packages to like wedding planners, like a 2-day destination or just weekend celebrations, you're not going to sell a $10,000 video on the knot.
Yeah.
Correct.
But you can sell double the market average pretty consistently on the knot. And like whatever your market is, if it's $1,500, you can sell a $3,000 video. You could sell a $5,000 photo package on the knot. And like, so that when people are talking about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's not for every situation, but like be realistic. Don't lie and pretend like you've surpassed it, because if you surpass that market, you wouldn't be asking the question. And don't make people feel stupid for doing something that works for them. And
Yeah, and it does heavily depend on your market and what the prices look like with that. So in our market, I would say we started to cap out, you might be right, Alex, between the 45 to 5,000 price range. And I don't know if we've ever, I'm sure that we did get a few combinations like back in the day from the knot, but I wouldn't say that it was many. It was mainly just photo.
Well, I think the last year we were on there, our percentage went from like 95% to like 70%.
Yeah.
And the rest of those being word of mouth or Instagram, because right now Instagram was at one point in the 90s for us.
Yeah.
Instagram was at one point useful at all.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, it's still kind of useful for a lot of people, and we book off Instagram, but I wouldn't consider it a major source. I mean, I think the goal for all of us is to get partners in the industry that love working with us and give us tons of weddings every year, and that we can just count on. That's the goal for everybody. But if you're not there yet, I think the Youngs would agree, I would agree, The Knot is a great place to go as long as you set your profile up in a really nice way. And the other one is reviews. Get reviews.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, we didn't
Yes.
touch on that yet.
We didn't even touch on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people don't spend any money on it till you have at least 10 reviews.
Yeah.
Get a free
Yeah, it's-
profile and get some reviews because no one's going to book you with 0 reviews.
Right.
That is one thing we didn't do is get the reviews first, I think.
Well, we did get them eventually.
No, like we didn't. We started paying before we had a whole lot of reviews anyway.
Oh, I mean, I pay before I get reviews because I have money. But
yeah.
But if you're a person that's like that, if I tell you like, hey, get a good package, make sure you're on the first page. I try to tell people get the top package if you can.
Yeah.
It's like, but like if you're investing money and that money is like, it's gotta work.
Mm-hmm.
If it has to work, if you like put that money in and like you don't know what else to do, like what you're gonna do if you lose that money, then I would say make sure you get some reviews. If you don't care and you're like, yeah, you know, like we'll try, like I'm just kind of crazy like that. I'll just throw money at things and see what happens. You know, fine, don't put in your reviews. Like, but I do think long term to have success on the Knot. Have you guys found that the reviews were helpful at least at one point in building?
Well, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, the reviews are what get you the Knot award. So it's you literally need you literally need 10 or 5 10
It used to be 10. Maybe it's 5
Okay.
now. I don't know.
10
Some
5
amount.
yeah,
amount of
some
reviews.
amount of reviews to get this award, and it's guaranteed.
5-star reviews.
Yeah, 5 stars, and it's guaranteed. And that, I mean, to a potential client, you winning an award like that, it looks great,
Yeah,
and
it
it
does
is
look-
great.
Yeah, it's great.
So
They love it.
it's a good thing to put money towards,
That's
because
another thing that's kind of crapped on is the best of the Knot, because because the industry people know that it's not really that big of a deal, but to a potential client, it's
They're
a
like,
huge
oh,
deal.
they're
they
the
won an
Knot Hall of
award. They're
Fame.
like big on the Knot.
Mhm.
Well, why do you think the sketchy companies do it?
Right.
They know
Yeah.
that it works. And so if it works for them and they're not as good at this is what I always try to tell people. It's like you can hate on those people all you want, but they're beating you every day on the internet.
Yeah.
And
It's
so how about you like if like you're booking 15 gigs and they're booking 4,000. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just
Right.
price. It's like it's not just price.
No.
Mhm.
It's not just price. You don't think that person has an extra $1,000 to book you? They wouldn't even if they could, because they don't
Yeah.
want to work with someone with a broken website or not profile or whatever, and they don't care about you or your experience or all the crap you think you bring to the table about your personality and the art you make. They're just
Yeah.
like at a certain level, people are just interested in like how did you make them feel before they had to invest time talking to you. And these
Yeah.
big companies, they show up and they show out on the Knot. Like
Mhm.
they do a good job with a lot of their stuff. So I wanted to ask you guys about just the work that you do in terms of storytelling, right? So you guys are storytellers in different ways, right?
Yep.
Obviously, photo and video storytelling differ in some ways, but there's also like ways that they're coherent and they coalesce. How do you guys find like when you're delivering these collections, right? It's like a journey, like a 360 journey through this person's day, right? How do you guys story tell in a way that the photos and the videos are complementing one another? Or are you kind of just each doing your own thing in terms of how you're crafting the story?
So I would say, every wedding is different. But because we are lucky to be able to experience every wedding together, sometimes there's a moment during the day that we both already know, like, this is going to be epic for their film. This is going to be a highlight, a pinnacle of their wedding film. And so we will take that, and it even comes down to like our previews. Like that will be, we know that that's going to be in the teaser. We know that that's going to be in a preview for just the photo gallery. So that's, you might be able to explain that a little bit better, but that is one way that we know how to make it cohesive.
So one that pops into my head, just because I just shared this again, we had a couple years ago. Dad is an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like in the most like sincere way. He as soon as his daughter walked out, he was just a puddle of tears. And we knew that going in.
And that
We
just
knew
hits
he was
different
gonna
on
be
video,
that way.
right?
Yeah.
So we made sure during the first look that we were both ready for it. They got all the photos of it. They got just that for video. And then he also gave a speech that he did. We were expecting the exact same thing, and we were ready to go together. So it's really just anticipating those moments and just knowing the couple and then communicating together, because she'll see something and that I may not have seen and say, hey, go check that out. Grandma's over there. Go
Yeah.
capture that.
And sometimes from a photography perspective, I can see different angles and things in a different way that he does. So I'll be like, hey, I'm photographing this in this sort of way. Let's make sure that you do it the same, so it just feels like it's the same story being told.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I work with a lot of photographers, and there are times where I'm very collaborative. We're very collaborative. Anyone who's making money in this industry, you're collaborative.
Yeah,
You
have to be.
You have to be. But I also know, like, she's not responsible for my footage, or he, and I'm not responsible for their photos. And as long as they get what they want and I get what I want, we're all happy and everything's great. I would imagine it would be a little different when I'm delivering these collections, right?
Yeah.
Especially if that was like my bag, right? Like, our style is kind of just like, we don't really work too hard to make them connect in any way, in a meaningful way, minus the color grade. But for you guys, how do you find, like, when you're delivering a collection, right? All the photos, all the videos, do you find a lot of times, like, there's just a really nice gap filling that's happening between the two deliverables where it's like the person's getting different experiences? Or do you find kind of like that they often end up going down the same journey, but in different ways?
I think you've mentioned the gaps, but I'm going to, it's a little different than what you mentioned. So we're in our studio right now.
Mm-hmm.
We offer reveal parties, and it's
I
one of
love
the
that.
main reasons we got this studio is so that we can put wherever it's at, right over here, put the photos and the video up on that TV. They can have their family, close friends, whatever, come to the studio, see everything for the first time, photos and videos. And what we typically do is we show them the video first, and they'll watch it, they'll get their tears out, and they'll get the story, they'll remember everything. But the video doesn't show everything because we can't show everything in a 5-minute film.
Yeah.
But then they get to go through their gallery on the TV. So then they're swiping through the gallery and referencing moments of the video based on the pictures, but then they're filling the gaps in between the spots that weren't shown on video because we didn't have time for it, and talking about those moments as well, because now they remember them.
Well,
Yeah.
you really have his
Through
back
the
there,
photo gallery.
Veronica.
Yeah,
Thanks.
No, but I think that's great because it's like I trust the photographers I work with, and so we will be like, oh, they're gonna get it, right?
Yeah.
And they will, and all that good stuff. But that being said, it's really amazing to know that, like, they can get a full, with video just by nature, like you mentioned, Alex, you're gonna leave stuff on the cutting room floor.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to, because like the movement of a film is almost more important than the amount of stuff you fit in.
Right.
The other thing, I don't know if you agree with this, Veronica, I find photo to be way more, just way almost kind of abstract, like, because like you have this idea of like these people standing in a pose, like even the formals and things like that, right? Like it's totally like
Up to
surrealism
interpretation.
almost,
Yeah.
like, versus video, which there's an element of surrealism, but I love the idea of kind of having like the surrealism and the timelessness of photo with kind of video just tends to be more trendy, just
Yeah.
based on the editing tricks and stuff that you have to do and the music you pick. Everything about video becomes more dated faster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the idea of having both of them together. I just think it's so fascinating to have both of those angles. That's my rant about that.
No, I love that. And something that I feel like is just a little bit different that we do, because I'm doing almost every single wedding with Alex, who is the lead video. I have developed a posing structure that is good for both.
Oh, I love that.
So I have the couple moving like almost the whole time. We'll stand still for a couple minutes, but then everything else,
for the wall pictures, basically.
yeah, but then everything else has some sort of movement. Even if their feet is placed on the ground, their hands are moving or their faces are moving. Or something is moving on them for the video aspect, to really like create that organic like connection between the two of them. But then it doesn't look overposed.
Yeah, I love that. And that's an age old. You're lucky, Alex, because you have this photography wife who's clearly very good, who understands what they're doing, right? And you can just steal her poses, and she can't get mad
absolutely.
at you.
Honestly, she does probably 98% of the posing.
Yeah, I mean he'll be like, "Hey, I have an idea," and I'm like, "Please, by all means, like hop in here."
I don't know if you guys would be surprised by this, but not all photographers are very excited about working with them.
Oh, I know.
Oh, we know.
I know.
When we first started doing weddings together, and we'd only have photo or only have video, we'd get some, like, especially the video only ones. It was tricky to navigate because we're used to working together, but the photographer doesn't work with a lot of videographers.
I think it comes down to communication and like setting expectations for each other, but also being kind. Like you're there for the same reason.
We've talked about this on other podcasts, but I've literally had photographers, I've seen it where like they set up a lay flat and then I'm like, "Oh, can I get some of that?" And they're like, "Sure." And they take it apart and hand it to me.
I would never.
You know what?
I would never do that.
The opposite for us. She doesn't take apart the details. I hand her my camera sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So I can get like the grotto party interacting and hanging out and getting ready on one camera, and she'll have my another video camera in her hand. So she'll get her photos, and then she'll get some flat lay details on video.
Man,
she'll do it.
I'm always so jealous of photographers. Like I like the culture in photography, like the education side, like everything about it. It's so much easier to get work your way to the top, right?
Yeah.
Like if you just if you're good and you get around the right people and you can educate yourself, you can succeed. In filmmaking, one of the things we're trying to solve is the education structure is weak at best. There isn't a lot of education, and especially about marketing and sales. No one talks to you about your branding. No one talks to you about like working with other people. So it's always awesome when I have photographers on the show because the way that you talk about your business and sales and thinking about it in the way that you guys have built your business, it's just it's very inspiring to people. It really helps people, I think, really think about their business in a different way. And it's not just about the technical performance of making a cool film. It's about working with people and selling something and casting the vision. So I'm really grateful to have you guys on the show. Super, super amazing content that you guys are making, of course. But you also offer your work, your coaching and your mentorship. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that if anyone's interested? Because there's probably some couple listening to this who do photo and video, and they would love a mentor like that. Maybe someone who's a photographer looking to add video, whatever it is. But tell people about your mentorships.
So I will say, we just recently did a mentorship with a husband and wife team last year. She's a photographer. He's a videographer. And they did the mentorship with us. I'm going to just toot my own horn for like 2 seconds.
No, I love that.
They did the mentorship with us with the goal for him to be able to quit his full-time job and make photo and film their main source of income. And we just found out that like a couple weeks ago, he did quit his full-time job and they are full-time photo video. And that just makes my heart so happy.
And they were one that she was a solid photographer, really good. He kind of was introduced to videography, so he had a lot of work to do. So I did a lot of that, like helping him improve his storytelling and his video and on that side of it, in addition to all the other things. And he took that and ran, and
they did great. And
now that's their job.
I would say at the very basis of our mentorships, they're very much structured to what that person needs. So we do have like a baseline price, but really our packages are super customized to what they need and what they're trying to achieve out of the mentorship with us. So we always start with a discovery call. What are your goals? Where are you trying to be? What are you struggling with? And then we'll take that and kind of develop a customized plan for you. We have actionable plans and mentorship calls throughout a certain amount of time based on what you need, and follow-ups and things like that. And we give like homework and
if they're local, they'll like we'll have full days sessions in the studio, or that you can fly to us if you really are like set on doing that, and we can spend a couple days here. And really, when we ask the questions, we almost always get somebody that thinks they know what they need, and it's usually right, but only partially right.
Yeah.
And we'll do some reconnaissance and be like, that's right, but you should also look at this part too.
Yeah. I always just tell people like, hey, I don't know, man, just get good. And that's the end of my, that's my coaching call.
Yeah.
I actually came from, I used to teach also, like high school. I taught high school.
I
health.
taught high school too for 10 years.
Did you really?
I didn't do it very long.
And I was a musician, a session musician. So
yeah, I do all the things.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy
very
teaching high
helpful,
school.
by the way. Very helpful in our industry.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you're a musician, you're gonna have an edge for sure.
Alex can play every instrument under the sun except for the
some tiny
saxophone.
instrument.
We just talked about that actually. Yeah, he's very talented.
But yeah. So what was I saying?
I don't
know.
Something. You were
Something
saying
about something.
you were talking about.
I used to teach, so we're passionate about helping people. And you mentioned that it's inspiring to see how we're doing things, and honestly, that's kind of why we kind of pushed into YouTube, and what our YouTube's kind of blowing up at the moment, which is amazing. Little plug.
like all the plugs. Like, listen, people don't go on podcasts just to talk. They got things.
Right.
They got things to plug.
Well, our YouTube's
Yeah.
blowing up, so if you're not there, you're missing out. And the big goal there is to show our work, but primarily to just kind of give education and insight and from our perspectives and what we've experienced, just so people can either be inspired by or learn from, or both, just so that more people can be in the industry and be successful in the industry.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem.
Thanks for having
Appreciate it.
us.
Yeah, it's really great, and it's our goal is to have as different perspectives as possible, so we can. There's so much diversity in this industry, so many unique people and unique stories and unique ways of doing it, and I think that's really important for everyone to realize. Is like there are, of course, best practices, right? And there really are. So you can't just do whatever and make it, but there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. And so we're always trying to encourage people, hey, check out this model, check out this model, check out this model. And you guys, you're very unique in the industry, and I'm very appreciative of having you guys on. If you enjoyed this show, by the way, if you want to help us out, go ahead, give it 5 stars. Check out our, like I said, our sister channel, The Wedding Film School Show, or our main channel. And of course, on the main channel, you can join as a member if you want to support us financially, which, a lot of you have been gracious enough to do. We also do weekly film critiques live on YouTube. So if you want to submit your films, head over to weddingfilm.school. And of course, we offer mentorships as well, but I don't know why you would want to do a mentorship with me when you can call the Youngs. So head over. How do people find you guys?
So we are on Instagram at The Youngs Photo.
Same on YouTube. It's at The Youngs Photo.
Yep. Facebook is kind of meh. It's just the
Our
Youngs Photo,
primary
so.
is Instagram and YouTube, but we're
Yeah.
on all the things. It's Young's Photo Film, I think, on
I
Facebook.
think on
But there is
Facebook, yeah.
another Young's Photo and Film somewhere that you might accidentally end up on, but look for our faces.
Yeah.
They'll
Yep.
be there.
And
We're
how do
at
they
the
sign up
Youngs
for a
Photo on
mentorship? Is that
Instagram.
on your website, or do they just DM you on Instagram?
I would,
Just DM us.
yeah, just
DM
DM
us
us.
on
That's
Instagram.
that's the quickest way to get in contact.
They're so it's one of those things that it's so customizable because everybody's a different spot, needs different things.
Yeah.
That just hit us up and we'll go from there.
Love it, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Like I said, if you love it, then go ahead, tell people that you love the show. And of course, go check out the Youngs. And if you want a coaching call, set one up for them. They'd love to do a mentorship.
Thanks, guys.
Have an
Absolutely.
awesome day, guys.